Hi, Kayin.
Hi, Sin.
Hi, everyone. Today we're gonna have an AMA with Kayin.
Yay!
Woo! Kayin, for those who don't know you, please introduce yourself.
I'm Michael Kayin O'Reilly. I am the creator of I Want to Be the Guy, a game that for a short period of time completely ruined YouTube and Let's Plays back like 10 years ago. Now I'm like a nobody.
You're not nobody. In my heart, after playing I Want to Be the Guy, you will always be Satan.
I deeply appreciate that.
So today, we were supposed to record an episode with you, me and Richie. But something came up for Richie, so we had to reschedule. But since we already asked you to come on today, I thought we could still have a recording, but do something a little different.
Yay!
Yay! And so I asked people if they had questions for you on various social media. So let's start with Twitter. Oh, by the way, Kayin, what's your social media?
I am Kayin Nasaki at Twitter, KAYINNASAKI.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the only one that matters.
Okay. So the question on Twitter is from Rachel, not to be confused with Rachel. And the question is, how much do you love Gwendolyn on a scale of 1 to 100?
Ooh. Not as much as some people. But probably, I think I like Gwendolyn more than I dislike Gwendolyn. So maybe like a 60.
Oh, damn! I'd say about 1,000.
Wow.
I feel like Gwendolyn is a really relatable character because, like, you know how when you arrive to Anor Londo, everybody's gone. Like, the siblings are gone or sleeping, and all the responsibility has fallen on Gwendolyn.
It's true.
And yeah, that's a lot to handle. And on top of it, Gwendolyn is the only person in the entire game that doesn't leave family behind. Because, like, in Dark Souls 3, Sullivan is basically like, hey, I trapped your sister somewhere. I'm not telling you where. Gwendolyn's like, okay, Aldrich can eat me. You know, just to protect Yorshka.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I dislike Gwendolyn at all. It's just I think I like other characters more.
Yeah, like who?
Like who? Like Lady Maria?
Okay, but we're talking about Dark Souls.
Oh, we're talking about just Dark Souls. Who do I like more in just Dark Souls? I mean, Quelaag. All the daughters are going to be chaos. I mean, you get to see their feet.
Damn it, Ken.
It's very predictable.
Well, okay, but Gwendolyn has like 10 feet because they have snakes. So actually,
Ooh.
Gwendolyn has superior feet.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you have any other examples? Because we just established that Gwendolyn is better than the spiders.
I'm trying to think who's in Dark Souls 3, because I only played through Dark Souls 3 once.
You can Dark
Maybe
Souls
I like
1,
Gwendolyn
Dark Souls
more
2,
than I
whatever.
thought. Well, I don't remember Dark Souls 2 at all.
Would you like to change your score?
Does Demon Souls count?
No.
Oh, so I can't. No Maiden in Black.
I knew you were going to go for the Maiden in Black, that's why I know.
I'm very basic, alright?
So, Kayin, would you like to change your score from 1 to 100? How much do you love Gwendolyn?
78.
Really? So who's your 80?
Who's my 80? God, I wish I had a character list. Oh my god.
Have you heard of Google?
Yeah, wait, okay. Dark Souls NPCs. I like how sad all the stuff with Rhea is. She's pretty good. Andre's cool as hell. Rhea, the one that gets killed by the
one that gets lost in the dungeon?
Kills.
Okay, so you're telling me the character that gets lost in the dungeon has more points than Gwendolyn, who's left alone to run an entire kingdom.
I don't like characters because they're capable. I like them because they're disasters.
Well, it is a disaster. Look at the kingdom, Kayin. Look at it.
Good
Gwendolyn
point.
has
Good
to
point.
like make an illusion of their sister. I don't even understand what's going on with the painted world. It's like Gwendolyn's trying their best, but it's a disaster.
I like Vamos. I like all the blacksmiths. I like that their single-minded focus is also kind of both impressive and disastrous.
Okay, but Gwendolyn is clearly focused on family.
I'll give an 80.
You give an 80? Okay, there we
Yeah,
go. Good.
I'll give a few more points.
Okay.
You've won me over like 20 points.
Okay. All right, thank you. Excellent. And a second question by Rachel is, who is the protagonist in I Wanna Be the Guy if he is not, in fact, the guy?
He's the kid.
Oh my god, deepest lore.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's his official title.
Do you want to tell us any lore on the kid?
The kid has no lore, very intentionally.
Oh, can we like project ourselves on the kid?
Not even for that purposes. It's just like there's multiple like little kids shown in that and Gaiden, and they're just kind of like purposely really just generic, almost vapid characters. Always constantly smiling and like they're like lemmings basically.
Mhm.
Which I mean, if you want to project yourself onto a lemming, like sure.
Thank you. Okay, cool. So we had other questions, but on the YouTube community tab. So let's go there now. So we only had one question on Twitter. You're not very popular on Twitter, Ken. I'm sorry.
Damn,
Sorry you had to find out this way.
I'm crying.
Kayin is shocked. Shocked and silenced. Oh, I'm sorry. I muted you. My bad. Hello?
Wow.
I accidentally pressed the mute button and okay. Welcome back.
Hi.
That's why I had to repeat the burn because I'm like, no reaction. Did he not hear me? Could have drill it in.
I will assure you that I cried a lot.
Thank you. Okay. So, Ratwin is asking, can you summon a Brutus without Richie? So, Kain, why don't you give it a try?
Hey, Brutus, where are you?
Maybe they're stuck in like intergalactic traffic?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And V the Wanderer is asking, what are the games that inspire you in general?
Um I like games with like weird atmospheres a lot. Like so like everybody else, every other indie game dev, it's like, oh, I love Dark Souls because of course we all do. But Super Metroid's another big one for me. I was tweeting the other day about Vampire on the which is like this really old Castlevania fan game that was just like a weird DOS game that wasn't finished. That just had like a really weird atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I like playing weird games. Like as more and more time goes on, I just like playing random stuff, and even games I don't really particularly like. I think it's easy to just always take a little something from them.
Do you take a piece of their soul because you are in fact Satan?
Yes.
Thank you. V the Wanderer is also asking, also, would you consider doing something along the lines of Mark of the Ninja 2D stealth games? Or just good old fashioned beat 'em up like Streets of Rage?
I've thought about doing a stealth game, but it's one of those things where it's like I didn't feel passionate about it on a mechanical level. Like I thought, oh, it would be cool for like this type of story or this type of character, but like it never really all came together in any way that really mattered. So I don't see that happening. And as for beat 'em ups, not really a big fan of beat 'em ups. I mean, I do like character action games like Devil May Cry and stuff. Like you need that extra level, but like I don't know. I like exploring like worlds. It doesn't even have to be like a world. Like it just be like Super Mario Brothers, like Super Mario
Mhm.
World in particular, has these kind of big maps with like lots of secrets hanging around. So like the joy for me is transversing a world of geometry and like looking around it and figuring it out and stuff like that. So beat 'em ups are generally pretty flat and are just all about enemies, and that's cool. But like that's not really what gets me excited.
Mhm. Yeah, I also like exploring worlds. That's why I like walking simulators a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Also, V the Wanderer says, I love your stuff.
Oh, thank you.
I'm pretty sure that one was for me.
Oh, well, thank you for making all that great stuff.
Nah, it was for you. Okay. So yeah, V the Wanderer loves your stuff. But I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't love I Want to Be the Guy?
A lot of people, and they've all sent me lots of hate mail. I said that's a lie. I haven't gotten hate mail in a while.
Mhm. Well, because you're no longer relevant, so.
Well, yeah.
Thank you. Smagani Moo Girl is asking, who is Kayin's favorite Reborn character?
Reborn Chan.
Reborn Chan. Actually, Reborn is the character. He's the tutor.
Yeah, there we go.
He's the
There we
main
go.
baby. Yeah.
I'll be real. The Reborn podcasts are the only podcasts I don't end up listening to.
Maybe we should have a viewing together. It's going to be a surprise for you and Richie.
That's gonna be what you shock me. I'm not even gonna have watch an episode. It's gonna be like we're gonna review this episode of Reborn. I'm just gonna have to kind of fake
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay. That surprises me because you seem to be like an anime expert in certain anime.
I am not.
Okay, you seem to be an anime expert in one particular anime that I asked you about. And I was like, hey, I think it said that this happens in 1988. And you're like, actually 1987? And I'm like, okay, he knows his stuff.
Look, I looked that up.
No, you didn't. You did not look it up. You were like on the spot the same minute. I have the text.
I'm really fast at Google, and I was like, wow, I think Sinclair's probably right. Let me check to see if she's super right so I can tell her how smart she is. So I looked it up.
I was close. I was 1
and
year
you were,
off.
in fact, yeah, you were very close.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that basically counts.
Okay. Thank you. So now, let's go to Discord. So Princess Shook is saying, I have a question that I don't know how to word, maybe. Do you have any thoughts on the fighting game online situation? Where many big games are being dropped from EVO and not played online?
Yes.
Explain to me what this question means, first of all.
Okay, so obviously we're all locked in our houses now, and it's super great. And that's a problem for Evo, the largest fighting game tournament every year, which had to cancel because everything has to cancel. So a lot of people think like, oh, well, why not just play online, right? Like all games have online play right now. Online play for most fighting games is awful.
Can you explain why?
Yeah. See, now I'm trying to not peek the microphone while I get all
Getting all hyped for this?
as I get all hyped for this question. Even when I move my microphone, it still comes up the same wavelength.
That's
so weird.
okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, we'll fix it
Yeah.
in post.
Okay, so most fighting games do the easiest approach to net play you can do for any type of game, which is lockstep net play, which is basically you just delay the game a little bit based on how far apart you are from the other person you're playing. And you be like, hey, what button did you press? I hit this button. Okay, cool. And then both games proceed forward. So you basically delay your input by a certain amount of time. Like, usually it's like between like 2 to 10 frames, which is like 6 frames, like 1/60th of a second, which for a fighting game is a lot. And if you play certain other games that aren't really super input heavy, that can be kind of fine. It's still usually not the best feeling. Other types are more predictive. Like if you play Dark Souls online, it often feels like what's happening on one screen and on the other screen are completely different, right? Like it's just kind of keeping that vague idea of what's going on
Mhm.
linked, so it feels like you're connected. It doesn't have to be perfect. You have models like in like a lot of FPSs use a central server to determine truth, and they can roll back the state or make all sorts of calls, and that can hide a bunch of lag. Um, so one thing that a lot of new Western fighting, so a big problem with this is most popular fighting games are made in Japan, and Japan's small and has good internet. So with the lockstep method, it's like, well, it's easy and it's good enough. Like, yeah, you get like a frame delay, maybe two. It's fine. Even though in some places Japan that's totally not true, but they can tell themselves that.
Ooh.
You almost never get that in America.
Mhm.
So what a lot of American devs have done is this thing called rollback netcode, which some FPSs also use, which is basically you let the game play out as normal. There's no input lag, no nothing. And then when you get an input from the other player, the game goes back in time, puts in their input, and then resimulates the game forward a certain amount of frames. And if the game's really laggy, okay, so if a lockstep game is really laggy, there's a huge delay between you pressing a button and something happening. In rollback, if there's a lot of lag, your opponent will do something and it will seem like they kind of jumped a little bit instead of like, right? Because it's like basically going back in time and rewriting the past. And so if there's a ton of lag, you might see like the beginning of moves might not appear and stuff like that. And they might like jump around a little bit. That's if it's laggy. And if it's perfect, you really don't notice anything. Um, and you can mix the two a little bit, which a lot of games do. Like you put a few frames of delay in there, and then a few frames of resimulation, and that allows the game to feel pretty smooth. And it's more complicated because you have to be able to have the CPU power to just go back and recalculate the game forward. And that's really technically challenging. It's not super, super hard, but it's something where it's like you have to make your game with that in mind. Because if you think about something like, let's say, like particle effects in a game, right? Like if you just rewind and can you put the particles back where they were? Like most game engines, you can't. So you have to kind of like think from the ground up how you design your effects and stuff like that. And you can force it, but like not a lot of new fighting games can have so much of a CPU overhead left over that they can just brute force the problem. But like you can take like old emulated games, for example, and you can play them online with rollback, and it just rawly just resimulates the game because the games are so easy to emulate. There's actually a way to remove the latency of playing old when you emulate a game. Usually there's like extra frames of latency from all the processing and your like computer and your inputs and everything like that. You can actually apply this style of netcode to playing single player to go back in time and just send your inputs into the past so everything's more responsive. It's really wild. This is a really cool technique, and no Japanese developers are using them as far as I know. The only Japanese games that have this type of netcode are games that were ported by a Western company. So like SNK has been getting a lot of like King of Fighters ports and stuff like that done by Western studios, and they've all put in rollback netcode. So because of that, almost every game at EVO was dropped, and like it's like almost all Western developed games right now. In fact, like one of the games that was one of the first like community made games in the Western fighting game community, Skullgirls, which kind of got stiffed by EVO for years, is finally getting an official tournament because that game has like the best netcode. Just everything's super tuned and balanced and everything like that. Also, I'd like to correct myself. Street Fighter V does have rollback netcode, and it's broken and awful and makes some people think that rollback netcode is bad, but they're
Aw.
incorrect. It's just that Capcom released bad netcode and they never fixed it.
Okay, thank you. So, are the tournaments still happening with just less games, or what's happening?
They're doing events for some of the old games, which I think is less an open tournament, because that's the big thing with Evo. It's an open tournament. right? It's not like an invitational or anything like that. Like you show up, you can play. Well, you pre-register, you show up, you play. But like it's not like oh pros only, whatever. It's like in the fighting game community, unlike pretty much every esports community, the standard is open tournament. Like you show up and you play. Um, but like so for some of the games that have bad net play, they might do exhibitions where they get like oh let's say we'll get like two like West Coast players that have a good connection with each other to have some matches or whatever. Or like, they're coming up with like little things to include the game still, but not have an open bracket tournament. But like for like Skullgirls and stuff like that, they're having a full like US open bracket tournament. And you need GGPO to be able to support like playing across the country. Like I can't there's people like I've been playing Guilty Gear again recently, and there's people I would love to play on the West Coast, but like there's no reason for me to be bother. I just get mad.
Hmm.
It doesn't even feel like you're playing the same game anymore at that point.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else to add on this situation?
I think that was pretty thorough.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Beautiful Bear in a Tutu is asking, question for Sinclair. Do you feel like you can approach games and fiction the same way now? Or do you always think, this would make a good podcast, or there's nothing for a podcast here? I approach everything now and think, this could make a good podcast, or there's nothing for a podcast here. It's not limited to games.
Making content ruins you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the other day I fell off the stairs and I hit myself really hard
Oh no.
and it left a really, really big bruise.
You're like, podcast.
Then I made a podcast about it. What about you, Kayin? Ever since you created I Want to Be the Guy, and ever since you're working on games, do you look at the world differently?
Oh, absolutely. I cannot play games normally anymore.
How so?
I don't know if I ever did. I'm always thinking about it from like a production standpoint, from like a what I would do standpoint, like what's the pros and cons of doing. Like and same with like movies or anything. I never can just enjoy something now and just be like, oh, that was fun. Like I'm always like
Mhm.
critiquing and thinking about like, oh, how would this affect something I did that was similar, whatever. Like
Mhm.
I'm always on.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I don't think some people find that really like I've heard some people say that like, oh, I feel like I've actually ruined everything for myself, but I don't know. I find it just as amusing.
Mhm. Cool. Thank you. And Agent Funk is asking, are you an NJPW fan, or do you stick primarily to American stuff?
I love New Japan. I think I like New Japan more than I like AEW. It's just AEW's every week.
Can you explain what this is?
You watched New Japan when you watched
Oh,
that
it's
Japanese
wrestling. This is a wrestling
yeah.
question. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the New Japan stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I like Japanese wrestling better in general. Like my other second favorite promotion, Stardom, which sadly just lost two of their top stars, one from retirement, the other one from suicide, which is a huge bummer. That actually
Aw.
really made me bum me out for a number of days. Like I'm usually don't get too sad about like celebrity death. It's just usually like, oh, that sucks. But like that one, I don't know, it hit me hard.
I think I saw somebody mention it on Twitter. Is it a woman who may have committed suicide due to bullying?
Yeah, because of being on a reality TV show. Yeah. I think that's what made it like feel really awful. Where it's like usually with wrestling, when like people die in wrestling, it's like, oh, they died because they've been like doing hardcore drugs for 20 years to deal with the pain, and it's like that's unfortunate, but like there's a certain amount of like it's like, well, you had time, usually whatever. Well, this just seems like cruel.
Yeah.
So, but I would say I like Japanese wrestling better.
Mhm.
But I do love AEW a lot. It's like they're all different though, which is the good thing. It's like with games. Like, what's your favorite? It's less important than just like being able to get something unique out of everything.
Okay, thank you. Agent Funk is also asking, will you ever make a spiritual successor to Saturday Night Slam Masters?
Sadly, no. I have thought about the logistics of making a wrestling game before, but it always just like it's just untenable. Too
No.
much stuff to make. It's like I would rather make like a fighting game or something. It's like the same amount of effort, but like something I know more people would enjoy.
Mhm.
But I'll also never make a fighting game. So
Okay, thank you. Philomena is asking, Sinclair, what techniques do you use to get people to talk to you and to open up and have a good time on your podcast? Um, I clap a lot. I raise my voice. I throw shade.
not a lot of shade so far. Just a little bit.
A little
Looking to shade.
And Philomena is also asking, I'd love to know from Kayin what he thinks about your techniques.
I always laugh when people are like, not anybody who really listens to the podcast, but the comments people, it's like, oh, the trick ruins it. And
Yeah.
I don't think people appreciate how much you make stuff happen. Like, you're part of the reason why the podcast is great. Because, like, I'll be honest, like I love Richie's take on lore. I really didn't care for Richie's solo videos.
Ooh.
I think you bring out the best in Richie because, like, and Richie even says it himself, like, this is what I want to be doing, right? Like,
Yeah,
he says it.
No, for sure.
Because I think, like, there's almost like too much, people want to make everything a little too neat and perfect with their, like, mysterious lore videos. And you purposely asking all these ridiculous questions and being ridiculous, you push things in a way that get interesting answers that are not always like, oh, these perfect, whatever. Like, it gets Richie to be like, no, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think some people need to hear that sometimes instead of thinking that, like, oh, there's some secret key that we're going to find. Like, sometimes you just need to know. And by doing it, you also make it funny. And it's good, like, because, like, I think most people on their own devices would just not bring up those like ugly edge cases. But your approach to talking about things and exploring every angles both serves both comedy, breaking the ice, and actually getting better information.
Thank you, Satan. So, beautiful Baronet Tutu is asking, question for Kayan. What is all this stuff about fetish? what, what is all this stuff about fetishes I constantly hear connected to you?
I mean, that's just one of the things I enjoy talking about. I enjoy talking about people's weird, pervy stuff. And I like Sinclair, to break the ice with people and try and get people to open up and talk about things they normally wouldn't talk about. Not just because I am a huge pervert, which I am, but I find that type of honest interaction to just be fun and nice, and people learn things about themselves and other people. And um, I think it's good to talk about things, because I think when you talk about things, you learn more about them. Even by saying something,
Mm-hmm.
you're learning more about what you're talking about by actually saying it and having to put your thoughts into words. And that, in a lot of situations, even like creepy fetish stuff, can be beneficial to help people be like, oh, I didn't know that about myself. Like,
Mm-hmm. It's like a journey of discovery.
right. And I do it by just being completely brazen online. And that somehow makes people more comfortable with me, even though I think a lot of people predict the opposite would happen. So I'm very happy that that con has actually worked out.
No, it's cool. And we actually want to have you on a bit later. And we talked about this on another Saturday Night's Neck Covenant.
Right, where words with Kayin.
Words with Kayan, yes. Okay. Thank you. Princess Doom Kitty 3000 is asking, what's a recent underrated game you'd recommend people to try out?
Oh, this is hard because I don't play anything recent. I'm always like
Hmm.
a year or so behind most releases. Let me think. I mean, I think everybody who follows me on Twitter has seen me post skateboarding clips from Session.
Hmm.
I don't know if I could recommend that game to most people, but if it's like, if you're somebody who the idea of a realistic skateboarding game with really weird but kind of sensible, kind of like, how would I describe it? It's like the controls are designed in a way to try and mimic what you're actually doing on a skateboard.
Hmm.
And I like things that try and be creative with inputs. So if that sounds appealing to you, Session is a really cool game to look into. And that's recent. That's still in early access. That's probably the most recent game I've played. Dicey Dungeon would be another one. The game kind of peters out, in my opinion, after a while.
Hmm.
Uh, but but like the initial thing of just like a deck building game with dice, and I'm not even a big fan of deck building games. Real good. Iconoclasts has been out for a while, and I wouldn't say it's unpopular, but I still don't feel like the game is as popular as it should be.
Hmm.
I don't know that. Like I went into that game like I'm gonna play a fun Metroidvania, and it's just instead this soul crushing like story, and
Oh.
it's great.
Okay.
I got a good one actually.
Yeah.
I want to be the maker. No, I want to maker. It's basically Mario Maker, but with I want to be the guy, and it's free on Steam. And the team that put it together did an amazing job with the level of polish to make it feel like you're playing like basically like a Mario Maker with all the like whimsy and fun and everything like that. And the levels are fun and creative, and the level makers really deep. But even if you just want to go on and play some hard levels with some funny ideas, like I Want to Maker is really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now and it's like really pretty, like really well done.
Yeah, right? I was super impressed when I saw it. It's like I didn't see it until it was released. And I was like, oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, it's really cool.
Here, if we go for an old game that people should play, because it's my answer all the time, everybody should go get a PC 98 emulator and play the translation of EVO, The Theory of Evolution.
Oh, Richie and I streamed it actually and had a podcast on it.
I desperately wanted to be on that
You
podcast.
did? Did I even know you back then?
I think so, maybe.
I think I only knew you through like Twitter. Like, oh, there's this cool person posting things on Twitter. Cool,
Yeah,
let's
because
listen
I
to our
think now there'd be
podcast.
no way. I think I would like it'd be like if you said like, "Oh, we're going to do an Utena podcast." Like I would strong arm you. I think then I was kind of like hoping like oh please notice me tweeting about this game and ask me on as a guest. Please notice me, senpai.
Okay, what happened was is that Richie,
I sent him the emulator actually
you
for
what?
that. I sent him the emulator and the files to stream it.
Okay, so he knew you. Yeah, because I only knew you
Yeah.
as Kayin, and Kayin was somebody who watches the podcast, who's a viewer, and we follow each other on Twitter, and they're really chill and cool. And then separately, Richie was telling me how about there's this really cool game, I Want to Be the Guy, that was really popular at some point, and that the creator of that game is somebody who's like well known in the community and they watch our podcast. And I was like, you're right, whatever, Richie.
Oh,
Yeah, and then Richie was repeated it a few times, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I forget which podcast it was, but Richie's like, the creator of I Want to Be the Guy was watching the podcast and live tweeting about it." And I'm like, "What? No way, you lie!" And he's like, "I'm not," and I'm like, "Yeah, what's their Twitter?" And he's like, "It's Kayan," and I'm like, "Wait, whoa." So the two things sort of came together, and that's when I texted you, and I was like, "Oh, hello, good sir. Have you heard of Dignity City?"
yeah. You're trying to gatekeep me.
I was like, I just didn't know if Richie was lying or not. I wasn't sure.
Look, I've listened to like 90% of the backlog and everything. I know my stuff. Besides Reborn.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's when we invited you for a podcast.
God, which was the podcast? What podcast was I live tweeting? I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, me neither. And that's when I invited you on a podcast that by we I mean I deceived you about. It was supposed to be maps, but it wasn't. It was a
One
one.
day the Maps podcast will happen.
Red Riv is on board. We just need to all like schedule a time to
Yeah.
make it happen. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So our Twitch Rorik is asking for Kayin, do you like Super Meat Boy?
Yes. I feel Super Meat Boy is the elemental opposite of I Want to Be the Guy when you're talking about hard platformers.
How so?
So I Want to Be the Guy, you have perfect control. Like, you hold right, you move right at a single speed. You let go of the button, you stop moving. You can move in the air perfectly. Like, you have perfect control. Now, perfect control doesn't mean best control. It just means that, like, your inputs are very one-to-one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the game's extremely trolly. Super Meat Boy is the opposite. Super Meat Boy isn't trolly at all. It's hard, but it's generally pretty straight up about what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very slippery.
Mm-hmm.
So, Super Meat Boy accelerates, he decelerates, he slides around and whatever like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of momentum involved.
Mm-hmm.
So part of learning Super Meat Boy is learning how to control Meat Boy himself, and then also tackling these challenging levels. I actually like games that have more slippery controls. It's like I didn't make I Want to Be the Guy like that because that's like a value statement. It was more just like that's the easiest thing to program. All right. Though Bep's the same way. Well, Bep doesn't have perfect air control. It's very imperfect air control.
Mm-hmm.
But like I would say in the hard game space, yeah, it's complete opposites where it's like unfair but perfect and imperfect but fair.
Yeah.
Actually, I Want to Be the Guy Gaiden, the whole reason why there's a bionic arm, besides the fact that I love Bionic Commando and it's one of my favorite games, is the fact that I wanted an input that wasn't binary, right? Where it's like, oh, if you jump and you jump the same height. Oh, you hold right, you move perfectly this many frames. Like
Mm-hmm.
learning to use the bionic arm was more of like an analog skill that had like weird quirks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that would allow me to make the stages more open. Because the problem with the game, like I Want to Be the Guy, is like if you're challenging the movement section of it, like the harder you make it, the more cramped the game gets. Because you have to space things closer and closer together and require quite tighter and tighter movement. So by having something that's a little bit more analog and challenging, I could make the challenges be a little wider and have like bigger open rooms and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I just love bionic arms. So
Princess Shook has a friend, and they had a question for you.
okay.
So their name is Rich, and they're asking when you're gonna make I Wanna Be the Girl.
Look, I Want to Be the Girl is the journey of self-discovery you make in your heart.
Aww.
No, actually, I went with the guy Gaiden. The kid in that one was supposed to be a girl, but
Mm-hmm.
I never finished it, so that never came up.
No.
But yeah,
And Beautiful Bear in a Tutu has a question. Question for Sinclair. If you hadn't gotten into the Souls games, do you think you'd still have ended up making YouTube content on video games or a podcast of some kind? Probably not. I'd probably spend this like time and energy in other hobbies.
what other hobbies do you have, Sin?
I have lots of other hobbies.
Besides watching RuPaul's Drag Race?
Watching Reborn.
Wow.
There we go. Thank you.
Do you have other hobbies that aren't taking in content?
I do.
But will you say what they are?
I'm shy.
Okay, all right.
Do you have any other hobbies other than making games?
Yes, I like making things in general.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently, before I came on for the podcast, I was working on a pergola for the at the back of the house.
What's that?
It's like a gazebo
Okay,
thing.
cool.
It's a kit, but so like just building stuff.
Awesome.
I would do like art stuff. You've seen some of the 3D stuff I've like worked on.
Yeah.
I just do. I mean, it's all computer stuff, but like I'll do stuff with video editing and stuff like that. It's like anything that's making things is really appealing to me.
Hmm. Cool. And since you do occasionally make games, as people may know,
Yes.
do you want to talk about a game you're in the process of making?
Oh my god, burnout on a large project is real. Like, yeah,
Oh,
Brave Earth. It's basically Castlevania. Buy it when it comes out. When I actually build up the willpower to finish it, which should hopefully be soon. Look it up on Steam. The trailer's cool. I'm proud of the game, even though I'm totally sick of thinking about it.
aw. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really nice. It's really well made. It's a really cool
I
game.
would think so. Did I give you a key for it?
Do what? Sorry, say it again.
I gave you a key for it,
I
right?
don't think so. I only seen like gameplay and trailers or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Is it the secret key that tells you all the lore?
No, no. All the lore is my not safe for work Twitter. That's where all the important BEP lore is.
Okay. Thank you, Kayin. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself?
I don't think so. I think we've covered most of it. I think we've covered my entire life, basically.
Mhm.
I mean, we had a whole podcast on me.
When?
The I Want to Be the Guy podcast.
Oh yeah. Well, it was more about I want to be the guy, not necessarily you.
Yeah, but it got into me a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, a little.
I
I
mean,
guess.
a
Mm,
little.
mm.
And also, like 20 minutes of me and Redgrave just all of a sudden gushing about fighting games for no reason.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, let me ask you. If you could have any sippy cup, what kind of a sippy cup would it be?
What are my choices?
Like whatever, like you could make a custom one.
Custom. I'd have my I Want to Be the Guy sippy cup. I feel like that would be very. I
Do
feel like
those
there's a piece of mark.
exist?
No, I mean I have an I Want to Be the Guy mug, which isn't even the mug I use, but yeah.
Oh
I think they have
snap!
like one of those print on demand stores that are like lame as hell.
Because I don't know if you know, but my boyfriend forbid me from using glasses because I keep accidentally breaking them. So
Yes.
yeah, so
Yes, I've
that's
made fun of you for that before.
yeah, yeah. So basically, for anybody who's not in the loop as to why we're talking about sippy cups, I keep accidentally breaking like mugs and glasses and dishes, and it's gotten like really bad. And my boyfriend was like, "No more glasses for you. Use the cup that your mom got you." And it's like Richie calls it a sippy cup, but it's not a sippy cup. It's like a plastic cup with a straw and like a lid, and it's red and it has Harley Quinn on it. And it's very convenient because I actually kind of dropped it a couple of times and it's good. It's okay. Nothing spilled, nothing broke. It's perfect.
How long do you think you would survive on your own if, like, let's say you were single and the coronavirus happened and you were stuck in the house by yourself? How long would you last? Or would you be like Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid 3 where you'd have like the mini game where you're like suturing your wounds and stuff like that?
Well, funny you mentioned that. A few days ago, what was I doing? I don't remember what I was doing, but I was using the big knife. And you know,
That's ominous.
but okay, you know how you have your hand, right?
Hmm.
And you know how you have your
And then you know how then when you don't have your hand because you misused the big knife?
no, not yet. But you know how you have your index finger and your thumb, and you know that arc between the fingers.
I don't like where this is going. Okay, yes.
You know that like
Oh, you cut your webbing?
is that what it is? What I don't know how I accidentally just like smashed my knife into that part and it just like went in. And I
Oh,
was like, uh-oh,
oh,
boyfriend.
no.
Yeah, he had to like clean my wound and like band-aid it. It's okay, it grew back. It's fine.
It grew back.
But I'm no longer allowed to use big knives. I guess guess that's it for this podcast. Richie, do the outro.
Thank you, Richie. What else happens during the outro?
Richie summarizes the episode and then he says something shady about what we just talked about.
Well, I think we did a good job talking about questions for me, so no shade there.
Thank you, Kayin.
Thank you, Sinclair.
No thank you to Richie.
Didn't even know we were going to talk about JoJo's on Tuesday. Jeez.
Yeah, well, I guess for those who listened till the end, that was the podcast. That's a surprise.
Oh, spoilers.
Spoilers, yeah, because I told people that Richie and I and the guest are going to be talking about JoJo, and the guest is very knowledgeable about it.
I'm fairly knowledgeable.
Well, you're super knowledgeable.
I think you're just impressed that I remember character names.
Yeah.
I love that you can't remember any JoJo's characters' names, but you were shocked that I didn't remember the name of the character from Cyber City Oedo. It's like, it's Ben 10, God. I'm like, oh God, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I was offended. I was like, how could you forget Benton? What's wrong with you?
It's like, as soon as you said the anime, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's who the character is. But I was just like, I don't remember the name. But you'll watch a whole season of a show, it's like, who's Joseph?
Yeah. They have confusing names, like everybody's JoJo. I'm over it.
Confusing names like Joseph.
Yes. Alright, well, thank you so much for coming, Kayin. Really appreciate it.
Ba-bum-bum.
What? Say that again? Sorry, I think you cut out.
I said, ba-bum-bum.
Well, what is that?
I just made a noise because you were quiet. God. Well, that failed.
Look, I made a noise too.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Have a good one, Kayin.
You too.
And thanks everybody for listening.
Sorry I'm late, I was stuck in intergalactic traffic.